Hey everybody, I'm here with my teaching assistant, Simon. And for this unit, I wanted to put together 3 short videos regarding some sort of common issues or frequently asked questions that students have had when it comes to writing white papers. And in this first video, we're going to talk about the fact that you might do your analysis and get to the analysis section and then have to make your final recommendation, and you realize that when you've taken your idea or your solutions and stacked them up against your criteria, one of more of your solutions might not work. You might get to the end and say, well, I've crunched the numbers, I've done the research, and this idea that I had that seemed like a great idea when I wrote the proposal, something that was really going to work, actually not so much. It's not going to work. And you have to be okay about saying that in your recommendation section. You really do, which is hard. I know that in a lot of our English classes, we've been trained in the persuasive essay mentality, where you start with, here's my argument, I'm going to convince you that I'm right. That's the goal of this. In a white paper, that's not our goal. Our goal is not to say, I am right and I must make you believe me at all costs. The goal of a white paper is to help people in industry make decisions about problems. And really, what a white paper is about is making the best informed decision possible. So think about it. There are plenty of times in your life when you've done something that you thought was a great idea and then it turned out to not be such a good idea, right? And that's part of life, and that's okay. Well, in industry, there are a lot of problems that we're trying to solve, and they take a lot of resources, time, money, human power, things like that. And we want to make the best decision possible rather than just saying, hey, this might work, let's throw a bunch of time and other resources at it, then have it not work, and then where are we? We still haven't solved the problem, and now we have fewer resources to find a solution that works. So with a white paper, what we're trying to do is say, all right, here's some ideas I have. Let's test them against carefully determined criteria. And then we can say, okay, based on this carefully determined and specifically defined criteria, is this idea likely to work? And sure, in an ideal world, yes, it would work, but it's not uncommon at all for you to get to the end and say, no, it's not. And in that case, in our reports, we have to be willing to say, I thought this was going to work, but when we look at it with the criteria in place, it's probably not a good thing to pursue. You're not going to fail the paper if you get to the end and say, you know what, 1 or 2 of these ideas I've had is not going to work. You won't fail. I've had a lot of students. I had one student a few years ago who really came up against this, and he was just looking at one solution in his paper, and he said, this is not going to work at all, and I'm going to get an F. I need to redo my whole paper. And I said, no, you don't. Because that's what we're really trying to learn here, is to learn how to evaluate something, make a critical decision as to whether or not it's a good idea, and then formally make that recommendation. Yes, it's a good idea. No, it's not a good idea. Or even results inconclusive. Ideally, we want to be able to have a clear yes or no, but results inconclusive is also a thing that happens. It's the nature of it. So it's okay to be wrong about your initial ideas that you put forth in the proposal. You won't fail if you get to the end and say, I've stacked this idea up against my criteria and it's not going to work. You won't fail the paper. In industry, if you're wrong, people want you to admit you're wrong because it's going to save people time, money, and effort rather than, wasting it on something that's clearly not a good idea. So it's really worth it if you are straightforward and honest. And again, I promise you won't fail the paper, because that's the point of this report, is to be willing to say one way or another. In fact, you're almost trying through your analysis to kind of try to prove yourself wrong. Like, you want to, maybe on some level you're trying to prove yourself right, but you're only right if it's very clearly, based on evidence going to work. So be willing to be wrong. It really is okay. And I know that in a lot of other English classes, or based on a lot of other projects you've done, the goal is to make people see you're right. with a white paper, the goal is not to make people say, yes, you had a brilliant idea, we must go forth with it. What you're trying to make people see is, here's an idea, yeah, it's worth investing, or here's an idea, no, we should pick something else. So I think part of the reason people struggle with this is it's a very different type of paper from what you've been trained to write. And so it takes practice, but please know that you are allowed to get to the end and say, nope, my solutions were wrong. And write that out and make that recommendation. So I hope that helped. Please email me if you have questions about this or anything else related to the white paper.